there are thousands, if not tens of thousands, of characters in Marvel, and it's always been a great debate among fellow Marvel fans as to really which of these are the most powerful characters. So here, I'm going to be having a little chat with you guys, well, just, to the camera, but about, who really are Marvel's most powerful characters. Now, I know this isn't going to be, you probably won't recognize many of the names here if you're just watching Marvel, if you just watch like Marvel movies. So I'm just trying to help a little bit with, because in the comics, characters are obviously far more powerful than in the movies. I mean, it would be so expensive to animate if they actually did that. But anyways, so I'm trying to come up with my list of Marvel's most powerful characters, which you may have had a look at. I'll put the links down in the description. But I'm struggling a little bit around my top 10 list, and you see, I'll go through the characters I've got, but it's kind of difficult to gauge who really is the most powerful out of these guys. And every couple of weeks, I read a comic and I'm like, well, here's another guy who could very well be like at least number 5 or something in power levels. So, firstly, among some of my characters who I'm considering of it, we've got Oblivion. Now, Oblivion, I believe, represents the kind of the opposite of eternity. They represent the nothingness. Not nothingness between universes, but like what happened before the universe, where there was nothing, effectively. Now, we don't see Oblivion feature too much in the comics, but one thing that definitely is putting Oblivion so high up on my list is that an aspect of Oblivion called Mikaboshi, who is the Japanese god of evil, and this character Mikaboshi in the really good comic book series called Chaos War, they managed to wipe out 98% of the Marvel multiverse. So the Marvel multiverse is a seemingly infinite amount of universes, and Mikaboshi managed to wipe out 98% of them. That means that Mikaboshi, killed every single cosmic entity in that universe. It means they killed Eternity, they killed Infinity, all of those. They got that out of 98% of all universes until they were eventually stopped by Hercules. But anyway, that's Oblivion, and I'd kind of like you guys to, I'm going to say these, I'm not going to say what order I put them in, but I'd like you guys to come up with an order for them down below, who you think are the top 10 most powerful characters, and if you have any other suggestions as to who I should put up on this list. So, another suggestion that I've had, well, an obvious one, would be pre-retcon Beyonder and pre-retcon Molecule Man. So, this was in the, I believe Secret Wars 1984, which was an insane group of comics, really. But the Beyonder came in, and before they got nerfed, which was around Secret Wars 2015, I think. But before they got nerfed, the Beyonder and the Molecule Man, I'll explain who they are quickly. So, well, their origins are sort of unknown, except that they're two halves of a cosmic cube, which is like a wishing box, really. Insanely powerful artifact. But they're two halves of it. The Molecule Man's one half, and the Beyonder's another half. The Molecule Man was a guy who, his origins are that his name's Owen Reese, and they got their powers because they were like experimenting as a scientist, and they accidentally opened up a portal to another dimension, which turned out to be the realm of the Beyonders, and some of that energy passed through, and then they absorbed that energy. And they could then use that energy to alter the molecules of anything, which is pretty insane level power. So very high level reality warping, and they can alter. I mean, it's in his name, the Molecule Man. He could alter the molecular structure of anything. He could basically anything that's made of anything. He could change it and had complete power over it. During Secret Wars, him and his counterpart, the Beyonder, who came to Earth and basically got all the heroes to fight each other just for fun, those two were, at the time, meant to be ranked above the Living Tribunal in authority and power, which is insane. So that brings me to another one of my suggestions, which is the Living Tribunal. Now, the Living Tribunal is kind of hazy on origins. Well, they were created by the One Above All, so the god of the Marvel Universe, and they were created, and their purpose is to maintain the balance of magical energy in the Marvel multiverse. So, if you think of it, when Thanos got the Infinity Gauntlet and tried to usurp Eternity, that's not an imbalance of magical energy. One of the key things in the universe is that, the weak replace the strong. That's like a key thing. Evolution always wins, generally. So, that's why the Living Tribunal didn't intervene during that part of the Infinity Gauntlet. However, if we had, let's say, Doctor Strange, he sold his soul and gained 100% power, took all the magical energy of one universe and then moved into a next one, tried to take all the energy of that, moved into the next one, took all the energy of that, went through the multiverse doing that. The Living Tribunal's purpose and power level would have to be that they would be powerful enough to stop any magical threat. So it's weird, his origins really and his exact powers, but he's been able to stop the Infinity Gems working, which is awesome. Well, working in unison, really. He was able to, so when Adam Warlock had the Infinity Gauntlet and tried to stand up to the Living Tribunal, he literally, he put him in his place. Adam Warlock was going around, causing havoc, and Living Tribunal literally, snapped his fingers, and everything was back to normal. That is how strong the Living Tribunal is. And in my opinion, the Living Tribunal is the top of the cosmic deities list, the cosmic entities that we generally see, like Eternity, Infinity, Galactus. He is easily at the top of that level. He's way more powerful than Eternity, stuff like that. Now, an interesting thing here, so that's the Living Tribunal, and an interesting thing is that the Living Tribunal has actually been destroyed a couple of times. Now, one of the times where I've seen this happen, and the much more common one that I hear people talk about, are by a group of beings called the Beyonders. Now, the Beyonders featured in Jonathan Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers, leading up to Secret Wars. Now, the Beyonders, their origins are just they came from nothing, and they're in a universe, and they literally have just all got absolute power. Now, we've seen them wrecking the cosmic entities in their universe. We've seen them destroy the Living Tribunal. 3 of them took down the Living Tribunal, which is insane. They're called Ivory Kings, the most powerful of the Beyonders. 3 of them took down the Living Tribunal. When the Beyonders were released, when it was revealed then that the Beyonder, who I was talking about with the Molecule Man, was like a child to them, and that was when they got nerfed. So it took 3 Ivory Kings, who are the strongest of the Beyonders, to kill the Living Tribunal. Now, to me, that begs the question, what about 1 Ivory King versus the Living Tribunal? Who wins then? And to be honest, I don't know. In my opinion, the Living Tribunal would have probably beaten one of them, but I don't know again. So the Beyonders were only able to be defeated when Doctor Doom managed to gather a whole load of Molecule Men from from a bunch of different universes, and then detonate them like a bomb. And that was how he managed to kill the Beyonders. So, another instance where we've seen the Living Tribunal be killed is in a rather obscure comic called Venom the End, which I made a video about actually, what we see in there is this super intelligence called the God Mind, which origin's a little shady, but Venom the End was set 1.8 trillion years after the Venom symbiote bonded with Eddie Brock, so about 1.8 trillion years after now, about when all biological life is going to go extinct. And that's when it's set, and the origins of the Godmind is that it was like an arms race between all these races, like the Kree and the Skrulls, and one of them accidentally created super intelligent, bit like Ultron, that just spread throughout everywhere, and it's called the Godmind. Now, Venom ends up going back in time to try and defeat this, but when he comes back, he sees that the Godmind had literally taken over 98% of their universe, or was it 75? They'd taken over a huge chunk of their universe. The cosmic entities tried to stop them, and they wrecked the Living Tribunal and all the other cosmic entities. You see the Living Tribunal's head floating along, well, his 3 heads, I guess. But you see that, which is pretty cool. So that's why I'm putting the Godmind so high up on here. Now, that brings me to another one of these awesome characters. Now, this is called Meat Gardener Venom, or Tesseract Venom. Now, he is insanely powerful. This is because in the story Venom the End, in order to try and defeat the Godmind, Venom went back in time and bonded with every single living thing ever. Now, because it was revealed that when Venom bonds with someone, for example, let's say Venom bonded with Wolverine, then once Venom had bonded with Wolverine and then went on to someone else, he retained part of Wolverine's DNA, meaning that he could still have superhuman healing and super cool claws. So, imagine Venom, but with the superpower of every single living thing ever. that's how strong this Venom was. Like, Venom with the power of Doctor Strange, with the power of Adam Warlock, with the power of Mad Jim Jaspers. It's insane. It's so cool. So that's Meat Gardener Venom. That's why I put him so high up on this list. Now, another character who we've got is the Dreaming Celestial and the Fulcrum, who they go hand in hand, really. They work together. Now, the Fulcrum is believed to be an aspect of the One Above All, who's the god of the Marvel universe, multiverse, omniverse even. And the Dreaming Celestial kind of accompanies them. Now, it's really unrevealed the true scale of the Fulcrum's power, but they do run a bar called Starlins for Celestials after they die, which is just an interesting thing. Jim Starlin was the guy who wrote the Infinity Gauntlet thing and all that. They are accompanied by what's called the Dreaming Celestial. Now, there's a huge origin to the Dreaming Celestial, which I'm not going to go into, but put very basically, they're a Celestial that became sentient and kind of had emotions, and that made them incredibly powerful as a Celestial. So they kind of went hand in hand with the Fulcrum to work alongside them. Now, I would personally put the Dreaming Celestial and the Fulcrum together. Some people could argue the Dreaming Celestial is more powerful because we've simply seen them do more. I mean, what use is having the insane level of power that the Fulcrum has when we really haven't seen them do too much? So, that's the Dreaming Celestial and the Fulcrum. So, coming in, well, not really in any order here, it's just for you guys to have a think about, is the Celestial Order and Arcanauton. So, in the popular comic by Jim Starlin called Marvel: The End, there happened to be this artifact called the Heart of the Universe, and it basically, if you had the Heart of the Universe, you sort of became the universe. It's a really weird concept, but there were a group of characters who managed to find this Heart of the Universe and began siphoning power off of it, and they were known as the Celestial Order. And they gave some of that power to this character called Arcanauton, who is a pharaoh in Egypt, and they just took him away and then put him back with extraordinary powers, where he ruled Egypt for a long time. Now, that it kind of shows, it's kind of related to, you know how you see in Egyptian hieroglyphs, you see things that could be interpreted as aliens coming up. They were just playing on that, really. Now, when we had some of Marvel's most powerful characters like Thanos and the Hulk and Silver Surfer attack these guys, they couldn't do a thing. They could not do a thing against these guys. What was it? I'm pretty sure Quasar. They managed to kill Quasar. They defeated the Silver Surfer. They were defeating Thanos until, which brings me on to my next character, until Thanos literally jumped into the Heart of the Universe and then took that and then effectively became the universe. Now, when Thanos had this huge level of power, he didn't control the universe, he was the universe. So it would be a little bit like how Eternity is the representation of the universe. Eternity doesn't really have a physical form, he just is the universe. And Thanos is the Marvel multiverse, really, when he had the Heart of the Universe. Now, it begs the question, Thanos is an insanely strong character, but there are plenty of other far stronger characters than Thanos at just his base level. What would happen if they got the Heart of the Universe? What happened if, the Marquis of Death got the Heart of the Universe or something like that? But, anyway, Thanos with the Heart of the Universe was confronted by Eternity, who used literally all of his power to try and stop him. It did nothing. Now, I'm thinking, well, the Living Tribunal again tried to confront Thanos with the Heart of the Universe, because what he did is he killed Eternity and then didn't become the new Eternity, which is against the natural order of things. So the Living Tribunal tried to stop him, but it couldn't work. Thanos literally absorbed every single Marvel character into his being. And that's why I'm putting him, well, I put him pretty high on my list. But this is for you guys to decide, where do you think some of these characters should go? Now, coming in next is, well, I've been really interested about this. So, the One Above All in Marvel is meant to be the god of Marvel. They created everything. They're often represented sometimes as the writers, sometimes in a Spider-Man comic where Spider-Man had to sacrifice his wedding with Mary Jane to get Aunt May's life back. But I believe the One Above All appeared as a homeless person to speak to Peter Parker. But I'm confused. I'm a little confused when I'm talking about this because a lot of the times I say there's another character who I put above the one above all in my list, but a lot of people say that that's someone called the one above all others. Now, the way I understand it, the one above all others is the representation of the one above all in the Marvel universe. So, as in the homeless person that Peter Parker saw who had pretty much absolute power, that was the one above all others. That was the representation of the one above all, and that like the true one above all's form can't really be conceived. Now, this kind of confuses me a little because the one above all, obviously, absolute power, complete absolute power. They're the creator. If you've got like a scientist and like a little petri dish of stuff they're making, it's like the whole Marvel multiverse is the petri dish, and then he is the scientist. It's like that. Now, this brings me to another character who, it's Thanos again, but with an artifact called the Astral Regulator. Now, in Marvel, in a comic called Infinity Ending and Infinity Conflict by Jim Starlin, there was an object called the Astral Regulator, which it seems just like a plot device, but Thanos managed to get his hands on it. And when he did that, he usurped the one above all as the divine creator of Marvel, really. And he became like the one above all others, you know, he became effectively the one above all. So the way I see it is that he actually did replace the one above all. However, I've been speaking with some other people in like forums and on YouTube, and apparently what it was is that Thanos took over the one above all others, but not the one above all, because he took over the representation of the one above all, if you kind of get what I'm saying. Now, this again is difficult, really difficult to make sense of. It's pretty mind-boggling stuff. But if you see, I'm thinking with the Astral Regulator Thanos, so he managed to take over the one above all. However, in the comics, people tell me, yeah, that was just a representation of the one above all. However, in the physical comic, it says that he's overtaken the one above all. So that's why I'm definitely putting Thanos in the ring for one of the most powerful characters. Thanos of the Astral Regulator, of course. So, yeah, that's pretty much all of my characters who I'm considering. There are a couple of other guys, like, for example, I've got the Marquis of Death on here. I've got, actually, one other guy who I've got for consideration is Owen Reese, the Molecule Man. Now, I've talked about pre-retcon Beyonder and pre-retcon Molecule Man, but in my opinion, this guy is even more powerful than that. Now, back in Secret Wars, 2015, the most recent one, when Doctor Doom got all these Molecule Men together and detonated them to kill the Beyonders, all the power that he had then, like all this power that was created when the Beyonders were destroyed, got absorbed by one Molecule Man who was left. Now, there was one of these guys left, one Owen Reese left, and he absorbed the whole of the Beyonders' power, and then allowed Doctor Doom to tap into that power sometimes as God King Doom, which is why it was actually a brilliant explanation I read on Comics Explained. But that's why when you had Black Panther with the Infinity Gauntlet, that is why he managed to pretty much battle God King Doom to a standstill. Now, that's why God King Doom is nowhere near as powerful as Owen Reese with the Beyonders' power. That kind of makes sense to me why at the end Reed Richards was able to take on God King Doom, because Owen Reese just cut off his power. So Owen Reese with the whole of the Beyonders' power, you've got to consider how powerful this guy is. So you have the Molecule Man, who is already, he's been nerfed, but he is already wildly powerful. Wildly powerful. I'd say currently, while being nerfed, he's probably around the level of a Beyonder. Now, he then has the power of every single Beyonder. Now, it took 3 of these guys to take down the Living Tribunal. 3 of them took down the Living Tribunal. And Owen Reese has the power of every single one of them. Every single Beyonder. So, it's a huge feat to be able to have the power of all of the Beyonders, and similarly, what Owen Reese managed to do with that power. So, for those of you who don't know, the story of Secret Wars is all these incursions happen, and Owen Reese, what Owen Reese manages to do is he just takes all these parts of shattered universes and literally is just at the center of them, like desperately like holding them together with this nearly absolute power. He's like forcing this place called Battleworld, which is a world that was created. He's forcing it to be created, that like a place that does not want to be created, like a place that should not be there. He is forcing it together with the power of the Beyonders. So that's my list. Can you guys pop down in the comment section, are there any characters that you think I've missed out for insanely powerful? Now, I know you might say like, oh, what about the Phoenix Force, or like Braxus or something. Now, I mean really powerful characters. I'm not talking like more powerful than Infinity Gauntlet. I'm talking at least the power of the Living Tribunal level. That's the level of power I'm talking about. So, what do you guys think? Where do you think we should put these guys in a list? What about, are there any characters there that you think should be deserving on the top 10 most powerful characters in Marvel? Now bear in mind, I haven't put these in an order because I really want to leave it up to you guys to decide it. So yeah, I guess that's about it from me. I'll see you guys in the next video. Hope you enjoyed that.